Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Premier Anna Bligh and your parliamentary colleagues, my ministerial colleague Joe Ludwig, the Minister for Queensland Flood Recovery, my good friends Bernie Ripoll, the member for Oxley, and Shane Newman, the member for Blair, are both here today, and it's great to be here with them. Representatives of the Defence Force, Police and Emergency Services, Mayor Paul Pisali, Councillor Paul Tully, who's acting as our Master of Ceremonies, and so many council staff who are here today. And Paul, let me tell you, like you and everybody else gathered, I'm an Ipswich fan. Pastor Morris, thank you very much for your contribution too. But above all, can I say a very big welcome to the survivors of the 2011 floods, and those who have come from near and far to be here and to be together today. It's great to be here with you. Many ceremonies are being held this week with countless words written and said, but there are times when we need symbols to carry us beyond words, to tell a story each hour of the day to assemblies as big and formal as this, or to a single silent onlooker reflecting in the cool of a long summer evening. As a community, you could have commissioned a great artist or sculptor to commemorate the floods, and no doubt they would have produced something beautiful. But what symbol could be more eloquent than the one that we are going to unveil today, the Pillar of Courage? It is, of course, a flood marker, a simple, everyday object found near rivers and creeks in thousands of places around the country. But because of what happened here a year ago, it's so much more. It's a memorial and it's a tribute, a sign of our gratitude and a storybook to teach those yet to come. Friends, the pillar we unveil today dates from 1893, when this was just a small town of 500 people and the railway had just come through. Like the marks on a doorway that chart a child's growth, it records goodness, endurance and resolve. Indeed, these very words have been inscribed: resilience, community, strength, heroes, caring and unity. But this marker is not just a symbol or a metaphor. It shows with mathematical precision how truly we live in a land of droughts and flooding rains. And despite all of those challenges, we wouldn't want to live anywhere else on earth. Of all the nations of the world, this is where we choose to stay. This big, harsh continent that is our home, our dreaming to share forever. And we love this country all the more in times of crisis, because natural disasters force us back to the very essence of who we are and the things that we treasure the most: our lives, our families, our communities, our land. Not that we would welcome natural disasters, it would be a sheer blessing if we never had another one. No one wants to see their possessions carried away in a skip. No one wants to live in a caravan for weeks that stretch into months, or wait endlessly for something as basic as gyprock to rebuild their home. We do not welcome disaster. We simply know that when disaster comes and nature hits us with its worst, we are challenged to do our best. As Australians, we will never fail to meet that challenge, whether in the leadership of Anna Bligh or civic representatives like Paul Pisali or Paul Tully, or dedicated local members like Bernie Ripoll and Shane Newman, who made this region's voice heard in the cabinet room in Canberra and beyond, making sure that they represented this community. Or in the work of community helpers like Cathy Beauchamp, who bring such humanity and hope. Or the SES workers, your local workers, as well as the ones who came cheerfully from as far afield as Tasmania. Or the hundreds of unnamed volunteers who gave up their time or broke off their holidays to ensure that a summer of loss didn't become a summer of despair. 12 months on, we stand here together. We stand in the balance between what has happened and what is yet to come. On this, we are clear. Today's anniversary isn't the end of the story. To think that would be a mistake, and one we're not prepared to make. What is wrecked in a day can take months, even years to restore. And some things, like broken hearts and shattered memories, can never be repaired in full. Perhaps there's some comfort or sense for us today in the Queensland motto, bold but faithful. Yes, let us be bold in our plans for the future and the reconstruction we are delivering and will continue to deliver in this state, but faithful to the memory of all we have lost and the hurt that won't go away easily, which is precisely what this pillar is here to convey and represent. That when the waters rose high, our courage rose higher still. We held on, we rescued and cared for each other, we rebuilt with pride, and we're here today to say we never will forget. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. Friends, it's a great honour for me to join with other representatives to be here and share this day with you. I'm pleased that we could be joined by representatives of the traditional owners, by the Prime Minister of Australia, Gillard, and thank you for being here to represent the views of all Australians about the events that we experienced. Our Governor, Her Excellency Penelope Wensley, and Mr Stuart McCosker, all of our federal representatives and state members, the Mayor of Ipswich, and of course all of the councillors who are here with us. Also, I'm very pleased that we have Major General Dick Wilson with us, who's taken over the reins of the Queensland Reconstruction Authority. And I know that not only is he in that role, but today I think we can see him as representing those khaki uniforms that walked through our streets and helped us in our time of need. And Ian Stewart, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, who became the first statewide disaster management coordinator in those terrible days in January. Friends, we come together today to mark the 12-month milestone since those terrible events affected your city. This is an anniversary, and on anniversaries, our memories are cast back to those days, and we will all have our own memories. Some of mine include the moment early in the afternoon on the 10th of January when I spoke with your Mayor, Paul Pasali, on the phone, and we talked about the latest forecasts from the Bureau of Meteorology that indicated that the floodwaters that were heading towards the city of Ipswich and down the Bremer River were likely to hit the 74 levels or above. And it's one of those phone calls I'll never forget. I don't think I'll ever forget the fear and anxiety in Paul's voice and the fear and anxiety in my voice. We both knew that these waters would wreak terrible damage, and with it, that damage would bring heartache and pain and much, much suffering. And I know that we all know that that's exactly what they did. Together today, we remember that over the course of the 11th and 12th of January, this river rose and broke its banks and then peaked at 19.35 metres, just half a metre lower than the 1974 level. But of course, Ipswich is a very different city than it was in 1974. A lot more people call it home. A lot of businesses that are here weren't here in those times, and many of those can be seen right here behind me. I also remember being told when I was sitting in the emergency centre by one of the emergency helicopter pilots that when they'd been coming back from the Lockyer Valley, that the only thing visible in this part of Goodna was the top of the pedestrian walkway to the railway station just here. And when I tried to imagine that, it seemed unimaginable. I then went up the next day in a helicopter and saw it for myself, and I have to say, when I went through these suburbs, it was one of the very few times that I felt threatened to be overwhelmed by what was happening to us, because the scale of it was simply so big. Just as a measure of that, 2,745 buildings were affected in the Ipswich area. They were homes, they were businesses, and they were some of our much-loved public places. And they weren't buildings dotted here and there around the city. They were whole streets that went under up to their rooftops. They were whole neighbourhoods and whole suburbs. And that made it even harder for people to be out there helping their neighbours because they had to help themselves. So this was an event that threatened to bring this community to its knees. But I remember coming here with my local member Joanne Miller. She, along with our federal member Shane Newman, had their offices completely wrecked by this event, and at a time when people were more likely than maybe any other time in their lives to need their local federal members of parliament to help them find their way to the assistance that they needed, these offices just had been completely swept away. So what did they do? They did exactly what every one of you did. They decided they needed to make do, and they set a tent up over just on the other side of the road here, and that became their temporary electorate office for weeks. And Joanne Miller here was here for weeks in what became the usual January heat, and I know that made a big difference. So Joanne, I did want to say today what a great effort that was, and for you and your staff, I know it wasn't easy. What we mark today is the unveiling of the Pillar of Courage, and I congratulate the community for deciding to use that word courage, because as this area was threatened, as I said, in a circumstance that could have brought you to your knees, you dug deep and you found a reserve of strength. And that strength and that courage has seen you through a very difficult, long and painful 12 months. As the Prime Minister said, a journey that is not yet over and may not be over for some time to come. But today is an important step in that journey, a step that takes us one little bit closer to the end of that journey, and a very, very important one to share together. As human beings, we like to, at these times, I think, find comfort with each other, and it's terrific that so many of you could be here with us for it today. As your piper Joe played that great Celine Dion song, Our Hearts Will Go On. This community, I think, were a great example of it for the last 12 months. I know you will be for the next 12 months. I said this time last year that they breed us tough north of the border. There are a few places they breed us tougher than Ipswich, and you proved it every day last year. Here's to a much better 2012.